The unexpected expedition. The research vessel Horizon Explorer cut through the dense, iridescent waters of planet Nereos, its advanced sensors pulsing with anticipation. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes scanning the alien seascape that stretched infinitely before her. The ocean here was unlike anything she had ever witnessed. Layers of luminescent organisms created a living, breathing tapestry of blues, greens, and unexpected bursts of color. Maya's reputation as a marine xenobiologist had preceded her. At 38, she was known for her unconventional approaches and an uncanny ability to see connections where others saw only chaos. This expedition was the result of years of lobbying, data analysis, and sheer determination to explore the first confirmed aquatic exoplanet with potential intelligent life. Proximity alert, announced the ship's AI in a neutral tone. Unidentified structural signatures detected approximately 2.3 kilometers ahead. Her colleague, Dr. James Chen, rushed to the console. "Those aren't natural formations," he said, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "These look like engineered structures." The structures emerged from the depths like ghostly titans, massive architectural complexes that seemed to grow organically from the ocean floor. Bioluminescent membranes pulsed between geometric sections, suggesting a technology that blended biological and mechanical elements in ways humanity had only dreamed of achieving. The first encounter. A sudden movement caught Maya's attention. Something was approaching the Horizon Explorer. Not a single entity, but a coordinated group of beings that moved with remarkable synchronization. They were approximately 3 meters tall, with sleek, hydrodynamic bodies that seemed designed for perfect underwater navigation. First visual contact, Maya whispered, her heart racing. Her hands instinctively reached for the communication console, activating the universal translation protocols developed specifically for this mission. The beings, which Maya would later learn were called the Neriani, surrounded the vessel. Their bodies shimmered with intricate patterns that seemed to change color and intensity with each movement. It was a language of its own, a complex communication system embedded in their very biology. Incoming transmission, the AI reported. Translation protocols engaged. A series of harmonic tones and visual pulses translated into words, visitors. Unexpected. Purpose. Maya took a deep breath. First contact scenarios had been rehearsed countless times, but nothing could truly prepare her for this moment. "We are researchers," she responded carefully. "Seeking understanding. Peaceful exploration." The response was immediate and unexpected. The water around them seemed to vibrate with a collective energy. More voices, or what passed for voices in this alien communication system, joined the initial transmission. Tensions and curiosity. Not all the signals were welcoming. Some transmitted what could only be interpreted as suspicion, even hostility. The Neriani were clearly a species accustomed to isolation, and human presence was a significant disruption to their carefully balanced ecosystem. Dr. Chen leaned close to Maya. "Their communication is incredible," he muttered. "It's like watching a living network communicate." Maya nodded, her scientific mind already analyzing the complex interactions. The Neriani weren't just communicating, they were performing an intricate dance of information exchange, with each movement and color shift carrying layers of meaning. "We mean no harm," Maya transmitted again, this time accompanying her words with carefully modulated visual patterns mimicking their communication style. "We wish to learn. To understand." A moment of profound silence followed. Then, a single entity, seemingly a leader or representative, moved closer to the vessel's transparent observation deck. Its body pulsed with a mesmerizing sequence of deep blues and soft greens. "Approach," came the translation. "Limited access. Observe. Learn." It wasn't a warm welcome, but it was an invitation. And for Maya Rodriguez, it was the beginning of humanity's most extraordinary scientific adventure. As the Horizon Explorer was guided towards the massive underwater complex, Maya knew nothing would ever be the same. First contact had been made, and the universe had just become infinitely more complex and wondrous. The underwater metropolis. The interior of the Neriani complex defied everything Maya Rodriguez had imagined. Massive chambers interconnected like living organisms, with walls that seemed to breathe and shift, responding to unseen environmental cues. Bioluminescent pathways guided their small human research team through a labyrinth of technological marvel and biological complexity. Dr. James Chen was meticulously documenting every detail, his handheld scanner working overtime to capture the intricate systems surrounding them. The level of integration between technology and biology is unprecedented, he whispered to Maya. It's like their entire civilization is one giant, living organism. Their Neriani guide, whom they had come to call Zara in their communications, moved with fluid grace. Its body continued to pulse with complex color patterns, a language of communication that went far beyond verbal or written communication. The vulnerability revealed. As they navigated deeper into the complex, Maya began to notice subtle signs of strain. Certain sections of the massive structure showed signs of degradation, microscopic fractures, areas where the bioluminescent membranes flickered irregularly, hints of a system under increasing stress. Zara, Maya transmitted through the universal translator, accompanying her words with carefully modulated color patterns, we're detecting signs of structural stress. Is everything functioning correctly? The response came not in words, but in a wave of communication that translated to a complex mix of emotions, concern, pride, and an underlying current of desperation. The environmental challenge. Zara led them to a massive central chamber that served as the primary control center for their underwater civilization. Holographic displays surrounded them, showing an intricate network of underwater conduits and energy systems that sustained their entire society. Our world is changing, Zara's communication translated. The delicate balance we've maintained for millennia is becoming unstable. Maya studied the displays. The energy network resembled a complex neural system, with millions of interconnected nodes pulsing with energy. But something was wrong. Certain sections were showing critical failures, areas of increasing entropy that threatened the entire system. What's causing the instability? Maya asked, her scientific mind racing to understand the complex ecological system. Zara's response was a mixture of visual and chemical signals that the translator struggled to fully interpret. But the core message was clear, something fundamental was changing in their underwater ecosystem, and their current technological solutions were proving inadequate. Clash of perspectives. Dr. Chen pulled Maya aside. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but they're approaching the problem with a kind of rigid traditionalism. They're trying to maintain a system that's fundamentally breaking down. Maya nodded. She had noticed the same thing. The Neriani were brilliant, with technology that seemed almost magical to human understanding. But they were also trapped by their own technological paradigm, unable to see beyond the solutions that had worked for generations. We need to offer an alternative perspective, Maya said quietly. But we can't just impose human solutions. We need to understand their system completely. A delicate negotiation. Zara seemed to sense the human researcher's growing understanding. Another burst of communication followed, part invitation, part challenge. They were being granted deeper access to the complex, but with a clear warning, any intervention would be closely monitored. Our survival depends on maintaining our current systems, the translation came. But we are curious about your perspectives. It was the closest thing to an open invitation they had received. Maya knew this was a critical moment. The Neriani were a proud civilization, not easily accepting outside help. But the desperation underlying their communication was palpable. As they moved deeper into the complex, Maya Rodriguez realized they were standing at the precipice of something extraordinary. This wasn't just a scientific expedition anymore. This was a potential lifeline for an entire civilization. The technological divide between humans and Neriani was vast. But within that divide lay the potential for something remarkable, a collaborative solution that could save an entire world. The hidden complexity. The research team descended into the deepest levels of the Neriani complex, where the fundamental secrets of the planet's ecosystem began to reveal themselves. Maya Rodriguez moved with a careful precision, her environmental suit designed to withstand the immense pressure and unique chemical compositions of Nerios's underwater environment. Dr. James Chen's scanner chirped suddenly, causing both researchers to pause. "These readings are extraordinary," he muttered, adjusting the device's calibration. "The entire ecosystem is interconnected in ways we've never seen before." Zara, their Neriani guide, seemed to sense their growing understanding. Its body pulsed with a complex pattern of blues and greens, a communication that suggested both pride and concern. The aliens' movements indicated a growing trust, a willingness to reveal the deeper mysteries of their world. The symbiotic network. The chamber they entered was unlike anything Maya had ever imagined. Massive biomechanical structures stretched out like neural networks, with living organisms intertwined with technological systems. Microscopic creatures moved through conduits that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own life force. This isn't just an ecosystem, Maya realized aloud. It's a single, integrated organism. Zara's communication translated to a complex affirmation. The Neriani had long understood what humans were just beginning to comprehend, that life on Nerios was not about individual species, but about a massive, planet-wide symbiotic network. The underlying threat. As they delved deeper, the source of the environmental instability became clearer. The delicate balance that had sustained the Neriani civilization for millennia was breaking down. Climate shifts, microscopic changes in chemical compositions, and subtle alterations in energy flow were creating a cascading series of disruptions. "Look at these energy signatures," Dr. Chen pointed out, his holographic display showing intricate patterns of movement. "It's like the entire planetary system is experiencing a kind of systemic shock." Maya watched as Zara's body language changed. The color patterns became more agitated, communicating a deep sense of concern and mounting desperation. The Neriani understood the threat better than anyone, their entire civilization was at risk. Cultural barriers. The research team discovered that the Neriani's approach to their environmental crisis was fundamentally different from human problem-solving methods. Where humans might seek to control or manipulate an ecosystem, the Neriani sought to understand and harmonize with it. "They don't see themselves as separate from the system," Maya explained to James. "Every technological intervention is carefully balanced, considered as part of a larger whole." This philosophy had served them well for thousands of years. But now, something had changed. The ecosystem was evolving faster than their traditional methods could adapt. A critical revelation. In a breakthrough moment, Maya noticed a microscopic organism that seemed to be at the center of the environmental disruption. Tiny creatures, barely visible even under advanced microscopes, were creating subtle but significant changes in the energy conduits that sustained the Neriani civilization. "It's not a single problem," she realized. "It's a complex interaction between multiple systems." Zara's communication confirmed her hypothesis. These microscopic organisms were both a threat and a potential solution, a key component of the planetary ecosystem that was simultaneously causing and potentially solving the environmental crisis. Tensions rise. The Neriani leadership grew increasingly concerned about the human researchers' discoveries. Their initial openness was giving way to a more guarded approach. They understood the potential of outside perspectives but were deeply reluctant to admit the full extent of their vulnerability. "We must tread carefully," Maya warned James. One wrong move could completely close off their willingness to collaborate. As the day drew to a close, the research team found themselves at a critical juncture. They had uncovered profound insights into the Neriani ecosystem, but translating those insights into a viable solution would require unprecedented levels of cooperation and innovation. The fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance, balanced on the edge of scientific discovery and mutual understanding. The breakthrough begins. The research station hummed with an electric tension of possibility. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood before a holographic display, her fingers tracing the complex interconnections of the Neriani ecosystem. Days of intense study had revealed a potential approach that bridged human technological innovation with the Neriani's holistic understanding of their world. It's not about fixing the system, Maya explained to Dr. James Chen and Zara, their Neriani guide. It's about creating an adaptive interface that can communicate with the ecosystem's natural regulatory mechanisms. The concept was revolutionary. Instead of imposing a technological solution, they would develop a system that could interpret and respond to the ecosystem's own complex communication patterns. Prototype development. James worked tirelessly, combining human computational technology with the biomechanical principles he had learned from the Neriani. Their makeshift laboratory became a crucible of innovation, where traditional scientific boundaries dissolved. "We're essentially creating a universal translator," James muttered, soldering delicate biocircuitry. "But not just for language, for entire ecological systems." Zara moved closer, its body pulsing with colors that translated to a mix of skepticism and growing intrigue. The Neriani had never seen such an approach, a technology designed to listen rather than command. The adaptive interface. The prototype took shape as a complex network of nanosensors and bioresponsive circuits. Each component was carefully designed to mimic the natural communication pathways of the microscopic organisms causing the ecosystem's instability. Maya's breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By studying the very organisms threatening the Neriani's infrastructure, she discovered a potential method of communication that could potentially stabilize the entire system. "It's like finding a common language," she explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "We're not just observing the ecosystem, we're learning to speak its language." Initial testing. The first tests were conducted in a controlled environment. A small section of the Neriani's energy network was isolated, allowing the research team to implement their adaptive interface without risking the entire system. The results were immediate and surprising. The nanosensors began to pulse in rhythms that matched the ecosystem's natural communication patterns. Where traditional technological interventions had failed, this new approach showed promise of true symbiosis. Cultural convergence. Zara and the other Neriani researchers watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension. This was more than just a technological solution, it was a fundamental reimagining of how technology could interact with living systems. "Your approach challenges everything we understand," Zara's communication translated. "You seek to understand, not to control." Maya smiled. "Isn't that the essence of true scientific exploration?" The high-stakes moment. As the prototype's effectiveness became clear, the Neriani leadership began to take notice. What had started as a cautious scientific expedition was transforming into something much more significant, a potential salvation for an entire civilization. But challenges remained. The full-scale implementation would require unprecedented levels of trust and cooperation between humans and Neriani. "We're not just solving a technological problem," James said quietly. "We're bridging two entirely different ways of understanding the universe." A moment of hope. As the day drew to a close, Maya looked out at the vast underwater landscape of Nerios. The complex, living ecosystem stretched out before her, a reminder of the incredible mysteries that still awaited discovery. The prototype hummed softly, its biocircuitry pulsing in harmony with the surrounding environment. It was more than a piece of technology. It was a bridge between worlds, between ways of thinking, between species. The tipping point. The warning signs came gradually, then all at once. Deep within the Neriani's underwater infrastructure, the first tremors of a systemic collapse began to ripple through the planet's delicate ecological networks. Dr. Maya Rodriguez watched in growing alarm as the holographic displays transformed from complex patterns of stability to chaotic, fragmented signals of impending catastrophe. The entire planetary ecosystem is entering a critical phase, Dr. James Chen announced, his voice tight with tension. Our adaptive interface is detecting massive destabilization across multiple environmental zones. Zara, their Niriani guide, moved with an uncharacteristic sense of urgency. Its bioluminescent patterns flashed in rapid, almost panicked sequences, a visual language that spoke of deep-seated fear and mounting desperation. The cascading failure. Massive energy conduits that had sustained Niriani civilization for millennia began to show signs of critical failure. Entire sections of their underwater cities flickered and dimmed, like massive organisms slowly losing their life force. The microscopic organisms they had studied, once a source of scientific fascination, now threatened to become the architects of a planetary extinction. Maya's adaptive interface prototype represented their only hope. But implementing it would require a level of risk that pushed the boundaries of scientific intervention. "We're talking about a planetary-scale experiment," James warned. "The margin for error is virtually non-existent." The desperate intervention. The Niriani leadership, traditionally cautious and resistant to radical solutions, now faced an impossible choice. Their entire civilization teetered on the brink of collapse. The human researchers' unconventional approach suddenly seemed like their only viable option. Maya stood before a massive control interface, her hands hovering over the activation sequence. Each movement was calculated, each decision weighed against potential catastrophic consequences. "Initiating planetary stabilization protocol," she announced, her voice steady despite the immense pressure. The moment of transformation. As the adaptive interface began to integrate with the Niriani's planetary systems, something extraordinary happened. The nanosensors started to communicate with the ecosystem in ways no one had predicted. It wasn't just a technological solution, it was a living, breathing dialogue with the planet itself. Fracturing energy networks began to realign. Microscopic organisms that had been destroying infrastructure now seemed to be working in concert with the new system. The entire planetary ecosystem started to respond, like a massive organism finding its balance. Unexpected complications. But success was never guaranteed. As the interface expanded, unexpected complications emerged. Entire sections of the planetary network began to undergo radical transformations. What had seemed like a precise intervention now appeared to be triggering fundamental changes to the ecosystem. "We're not just stabilizing," James realized, "we're witnessing a complete ecological reconstruction." Zara's communication became a complex tapestry of emotions, fear, excitement, hope, and a profound sense of the unknown. The critical moment. The planetary systems reached a critical point of transformation. For several breathless moments, it was impossible to tell whether the intervention would save the Niriani civilization or completely destroy it. Maya's hand never left the control interface. Every sensor, every piece of data was monitored with absolute precision. The fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance. Stabilization at 63%, the system reported. Ecological recalibration in progress. A civilization transformed. As the hours passed, the impossible began to happen. The dying ecosystem started to regenerate. Energy networks that had been on the brink of total collapse began to rebuild themselves, guided by the adaptive interface's complex communication protocols. The Niriani watched in a mixture of terror and amazement. Their entire understanding of technology, of their relationship with their planet, was being fundamentally rewritten. "We are witnessing something unprecedented," Zara's communication translated. "Not just survival. Evolution." As the first signs of planetary stabilization became clear, Maya Rodriguez understood that they had done more than solve a technological crisis. They had initiated a transformation that would reshape an entire civilization's understanding of life itself. The aftermath of salvation. Months after the critical intervention, the planet Nereos had transformed beyond recognition. What had begun as a potential ecological catastrophe had become a testament to the power of collaborative scientific innovation. The underwater cities of the Neriani pulsed with renewed energy, their infrastructure now a living, breathing system that defied previous technological understanding. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the research station, watching the intricate dance of bioluminescent ecosystems that now characterized the planet. Her collaboration with the Neriani had become something far more profound than a scientific mission. It was a bridge between two fundamentally different civilizations. A new understanding. Dr. James Chen approached, his datapad filled with continuous readings of the planetary transformation. The adaptive interface has become more than just a technological solution, he said, his voice filled with wonder. It's essentially become a new form of planetary intelligence. The Neriani had undergone a fundamental shift in their understanding of themselves and their world. Their rigid technological approaches had been replaced by a more fluid, adaptive method of interaction with their environment. Zara, their original guide, had become a key representative in this new era of understanding. The human contribution. Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had started as a routine scientific expedition had become a pivotal moment in interspecies cooperation. Human technological innovation, combined with the Neriani's holistic understanding of ecological systems, had created something entirely new. We didn't just save a civilization, Maya told James. We've demonstrated an entirely new approach to technological intervention. Broader implications. The implications of their work extended far beyond Nerios. Scientific communities across human space watched with intense interest as reports of the planetary transformation began to spread. It was a powerful reminder that the most significant discoveries often came from the most unexpected collaborations. Zara approached, its bioluminescent patterns now communicating with a nuance and depth that surprised the human researchers. Your species sees boundaries, the translation came. We now see connections. The future unfolds. The adaptive interface continued to evolve, becoming something that defied traditional understanding of technology. It was part communication system, part ecological regulator, part collective intelligence. The line between technological intervention and living system had become beautifully blurred. We've opened a door to a new way of understanding existence, James murmured, watching the complex patterns of planetary interaction. A moment of reflection. As the twin suns of the Nerios system cast their light through the underwater research station, Maya understood that they had achieved something truly extraordinary. This was more than a scientific breakthrough. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact with their environment. Zara's final communication captured the essence of their journey. Survival is not about resistance. It is about adaptation. It is about listening. The endless horizon. The research station hummed with potential. Outside, the restored ecosystem of Nerios continued its complex dance of life, energy, and interconnected systems. Humanity had come as researchers and had left as partners in a profound planetary transformation. Maya Rodriguez looked out at the endless underwater horizon, knowing that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey of discovery. The universe, they had learned, was far more wondrous and interconnected than anyone had ever imagined.